Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, co-founder and co-host of the Creative Birth Strategy House and podcast here on Clubhouse every Saturday morning, every Sunday morning, Saturdays 8 a.m. and Sundays 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's get ourselves started here in the next couple of minutes, and we'll get things rocking and rolling for our discussion this morning. Very busy week ahead. A lot of little weird little announcements and stuff. I don't know whether it's a narrative of the government, narrative of hope with the rates cut and the inflation depleting, but we'll get to see what's going on here over the next several weeks in regards to just general construction and renovation projects that are coming off the sidelines. I'm seeing a lot of investors making some moves, pivoting and strategizing, putting together their buy boxes a little differently going into the fall. This will be a very interesting fall market. And I think the discussion today is going to be key because behind every great rehab and every great flip or fixed to rent or new construction is one a good general construction team, and we're going to dive into how to build a high performance contracting team as a real estate investor. So we'll get started here. Just to kind of thank our sponsors as always. We're always there. We always appreciate their support. I'd like to thank Mr. Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, who is our social media strategist, who provides our streaming of our podcasting, our social media analytics, our whole strategy behind social media planning for our mastermind events, for our video work, for our clients. He's been just so instrumental to our growth. We really wouldn't be where we are today without him. I want to thank him. I want to thank Miss Linda Pelagas from Realty 411, who provides educational distribution of our publication, Realty 411, as well as national events throughout the country. We've partnered with her in various areas throughout the country: Philadelphia, New York, Florida, Texas, Denver. Where she's going to be in LA. She's got a big event coming up in October. I want to thank Mr. Eric Moss from MB Capital, who supports us with unsecured business lines of credit. I'm a referral partner with them for the past decade, providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate investors throughout the country. And then I'd like to thank Lendmark Capital, where I am a senior loan analyst, providing asset-based lending sourcing in the debt service ratio space, as well as fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, mixed use, construction lines of credit. And listen, we are a big fan of good general construction teams. So discussing this today is quite relative to what we do on a day-to-day basis in underwriting our deals. But another couple of announcements. Happy to say you're not on our video part, but we just got our shirts in. We're going with a new logo, so you'll be seeing that roll out over the next several weeks. We're going to have some very interesting dynamics. We got coffee cups, we got shirts, we got a step and repeat. We're putting a lot of things together because we're tying it into our mastermind that we're going to have second Mondays of the month here in Philadelphia at our offices at New Bold Exchange. So we're working on that. We're working on also our CE accreditation course for our real estate agents throughout the country in regards to asset-based lending fundamentals. We also offer worksheets for our followers and listeners into better penciling your deals done. And one of them, which is very important, is our general construction checklist, how to put together a general construction budget with a draw schedule so you could use that to submit to a lender to better understand your construction budget and plans to that project. Not a lot of lenders are willing to even provide that. We're willing to give that to you to make sure you're a better and smarter real estate investor. And I think, to me, I feel better when you have that in hand. Whether you work with me or not, I want you to be a smarter investor one way or another when evaluating these deals, because there's a lot of different moving parts. And I think people don't appreciate and depend too much on other parties for the general construction piece. You need to be proficient with that. So first, let's update us with some news this past week. The 30-year fixed on the LLC side dropped to 6.75. So rates are starting at 6.75 in the LLC space. In the conventional space, they're starting at around 6.86. So right now, non-bank money is cheaper than bank money. So it's very interesting on that 30-year. One doesn't reflect on your personal credit, the other does. One wants a full documented loan, one doesn't. So you got to kind of pick your battle and what you're trying to accomplish as a real estate investor. But the crossroads in investment financing is obviously going two different ways in regards to the rate right now. A lot of volatility, a lot of talk about the Fed making some moves down with the rate. Will that make any more impact? I think it should bring the rates down maybe another eighth to a quarter, but I really hope it doesn't go down too quick because obviously that could have some other impacts on banking and jobs reports and inflationary issues. So that was interesting. Still, sales are down. They're slowing down. Home sales days on the market are up. So there's some interesting movements there as well. But again, a lot of this will impact and will be impacting really who your investor looks like and how it's going to look going into the fall market. And general construction, I think, is obviously a vital piece. The U.S. construction industry has shown really great resilience despite global challenges, and they're adjusting to new patterns of demand and indicating variations in growth. Construction costs have stabilized finally in 2024 due to a backlog of conscious contractors and improved material conditions. Though construction starts to remain slow in some locations, and not all sectors are performing equally well, construction spending is up, and some interest rates holdouts are moving on to long deferred projects. We're seeing more money being spent in the single family through four family development space than the multifamily space in 24. There's kind of a slight slowdown in multifamily development. There's more money in the single family through four family development space than ever before. So the construction industry in the U.S. is incredibly nuanced, and major changes to the built environment are happening now, driven by shifting economic and industry dynamics. Spending is up more than originally anticipated. Interest in projects has increased. So regarding interest rates, higher for longer is still the working paradigm, even with some rate cuts on the horizon. The era near zero interest rates is not likely to return. Private sector construction spending is increasing, aided by some loosening of capital, and public spending has also provided market stability. I could tell you for a fact, there's more leverage right now in the private investment space and for new construction than a bank will provide right now. And timeline-wise, it's looking very promising for us in the asset-based lending space. We're rolling out a new product August 15th on the new construction space. I think we're going to be able to get up to 90% leverage on new construction. That's very aggressive. Now that it is based on 70% LTV, I think we're going to have much more of a flavor for developers that have the land already in third-party work completed and their general construction budget in place. But again, still, it's going to give a lot more money out there for people to buy the land, get shovel ready, put the general construction budget together. So what makes a good performance contracting team, right? You got to develop goals at the team level, providing feedback on team goal performance, factoring team performance into rewards, providing training in the teams. There's even opportunities. Well, if you really have a good GC in their team, giving them certain accessibilities is going to be very important for their growth, but hopefully your growth and doing more developments and identifying the unique needs of the teams in your organization. You need to also define clear team roles and responsibilities, identifying strong leaders within the team, work on quality communication, building healthy relationships with the team. You don't want to have a general contractor team that comes in and does one job and never see them again. You want the consistency. You want to find ways to reward good work. You want to be an accountable boss. Okay, you want to really define clear objectives and expectations, cultivating a collaborative culture, investing in a professional development, and emphasizing strengths-based leadership, promoting effective communication, and establishing team norms and values. especially if you're going to do multiple projects at the same time. Okay. A 3 to 5 man crew is going to be very important to keep moving along on projects. I have one client that has 25 contractors in his team right now on 3 to 4 jobs at a time. It's a lot of delegation, and there has to be a lot of encouragement of innovation and risk taking and prioritizing well-being and work-life balance. Good morning, Amy. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion, how to build a high performance contracting team in our space today.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me. I am Amy Palvido. This is a great topic because I used to be a former general contractor way back in the day. When I started in construction in 2003, that's what I was. I was a GC. Then I turned into a real estate developer and a private equity firm owner. And I grew. I grew my construction company along with my development company. In 2015, 14, we were in 16 states building projects for my construction company. And when I was to hire my development company in 21, I was in 4 states doing projects. I was in Colorado, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. And so I get this whole concept around building a team, and this is kind of like in my wheelhouse. So if I were to give you any sort of advice, it always have a backup plan. It doesn't matter if it's your cousin is your plumber and they're the best plumber in town. They will eventually flake on you, and you have to have always have an extra sub in your back pocket that you can call. Always have a redundancy or backup plan A, B, C, and D, just to get your jobs done. And you can build relationships, and you should. And your contracting team is only as good as your relationships with them. And then also, what kills a lot of construction projects is the investor does not manage the cash well. And so understanding your draws and understanding your draw schedule, how long does it take from the time you submit your draw to you get the inspector out there to when you actually get that draw back, because that can slow down your project if you have not built up enough reserves to manage through that, right? You don't want to make your construction teams wait for the draw, right? You want to be able to float that as the investor and then just pay yourself back. But you can't, obviously, depending on your resources, you can't float the whole thing. So capital is key throughout your whole construction project, and managing the cash. That's your job as the investor. And then maintaining the good relationships with the construction teams for sure is your other job. And and along with a lot of it, there's a lot. I have a lot of stories, Jeff.
So, Amy, please stay on mic. I mean, where did you see the weak spots with a real estate investor in the market as playing the GC, obviously being a woman in the industry of general contracting? Was there more consoling and a little more openness because you were a woman comparatively to a man, where it's a little more rough and tough? Like how did the real estate investor handle working with you in the sense of, you know what I mean? I'm trying to.
No, I feel you. Yeah, I will say I probably had it when I was a GC working with investors.
Mhm.
I probably had an easier time, but I also wasn't. I was instantly not given. I was not instantly not trusted. Right, I had to prove my credibility every day, even if they got the job. If there was some sort of hiccup or something happened, they didn't trust me because I was a woman. So I had to basically go in and explain to them what was going on and why it was going on and why it was happening. But you knew in the back of their mind, because I wasn't a man, they didn't trust my answer, right? Even though I had been a contractor for years and years and years, and I was a third generation contractor. My granddad had a glass company. My dad took it over in 1974. I remember riding around in the back of the truck with him. I've been in construction pretty much my whole life, but because I was a woman, they didn't believe me. And so it's just something as a woman, you just inherently deal with, and you just go, oh, okay. And I have, like, it's almost rote now that I have to establish my credibility over and over and over. And then eventually, once you get with a client that knows you well enough, then you don't have to do that anymore. But you don't. It's never given to you ever. You know. So
So
yeah.
where did you see the biggest problem? Was it the communication? Was it the contingencies? Was it just poor ownership of the project from the investor space? Where did you see the
Yeah.
breakdowns?
All of that, and we learned over time, but a lot of, you can deal with the contingencies, you can deal with all of that if there's good communication, but from the investor side, it's them not understanding that there's urgency involved in your projects. Like, if I call you, if I'm your contractor and I'm calling you, it's because there's something up on your project and it's probably going to delay it a week. But if you would answer your goddamn phone in the next 5 seconds, I could probably solve this problem for you. But it was like that. I was like, always, it was always, they would get back to me a day later and, like, you just stalled this project a week because you didn't answer your phone. It's stuff like that inexperienced investors just don't get. And so, because there's stuff that happens all the time on a construction project. I mean, it's not. I can't predict everything. Like, there's just no possible way you can predict crap that happens right on a construction. You're always constantly in firefighting mode, and you do the best you can as a GC to kind of mitigate any sort of problem that might happen before the next stage of the construction. And that's what you end up doing all the time, is mitigating for unforeseen things that could block where you're at, and you do it all the time. But you can't solve for every problem that you think might happen. So yeah, but it is that it's the communication, the investor being educated and not slowing you down as a GC because they want to ask you 5 different things about this. I'm like, look, you define the scope. This is in the scope. This is what we're building. We went through the painstaking process of doing the planning. Don't change it on me now because you don't understand the impacts and the interdependencies of this construction project. You can't change it. Right. And that's why I liked doing more commercial construction than residential, most definitely. Because the commercial construction, it was a clearly defined scope. There was there was a blueprint, you had a permit, you had all these different things. You can't, the investor couldn't just go change it if they felt like it. Right. Because then there was all these different things that would happen. So yeah, it's interesting for sure.
So what I'm seeing right now, Amy, and I'm sure you're on the same groups that you see these postings. You're seeing people, hey, I'm running short on my project. Does anybody do second lien position loans? I'm in the middle of a construction project. I need 50 grand to finish. I just got somebody that privately messaged me now, and the irony is this guy's a spokesman and writer for Bigger Pockets. Okay, and he's $50,000. That means he's really $75,000 off on his project, right? So he's not telling me the truth, but he thinks there's a make-believe loan out there because he didn't come to me in the first place to look at his construction budget. And now he's coming with his tail between his legs saying, hey, my lender won't give me any more money because I personally screwed up and not used the contingency of 20% of my construction. And I need an imaginary second position lien hold on a loan that I can't get. And you can't put on my title because my first position lender won't let me. Well, he's not saying that, but let's be honest.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. And can you give me 50 grand just floating out in the midair? And hopefully I complete my project. And most likely my credit's all banged up because I'm an idiot. So, I mean, where are these people coming from? Like, why are they not listening to what's going on in the market and seeing people making current mistakes? And it's all in the general construction piece. Like, where am what am I missing here? Am I missing something?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, they could have. So, part of it is that just the prices of things that were escalating so fast. So even if you bid the job prior to closing, 45 days. That budget is not good anymore, right? And even if they overinflated the budget 45 days prior to the loan closing and they got in and they started during the construction project, if it took longer than 3 or 4 months, but they're underwater because just prices were moving so fast and there's supply chain problems. And this is as a GC, I dealt with this 10, 15 years ago. Like there was always been a supply chain problem. I was always short drywall. I was always so you learn over time to fudge it, but even sometimes with your contingencies, it doesn't matter. You're going to get caught into something. But so for that GC, he's probably overextended on projects. He's overextended past his capital reserve amount because as a GC, you need to keep enough cushion in your cash to make sure your guys are paid and your subs are paid and you can keep the train moving, right? You can keep all your suppliers paid and all these other things. So if he just took on too many projects right now, chasing the money, that his project overextended his cash position, so he couldn't do that and he couldn't float some of that stuff. And but Joe, I got caught on projects and I was a good GC and I got caught on projects like that too. And it's you should be able to handle them as a GC, but sometimes you just can't. And it's those unforeseen things, and then sometimes you're also relying on the investor to have done some of the due diligence, and you get in there and then as a GC, and then the only other thing I can think of is it's just a poorly written contract, and there is scope creep, or there is the investor's going, well, I thought you were going to cover this. This is a part of your deal, and you're like, no, that's not a part of my deal. But they don't have the ability to do a change order. I mean, it's just all sorts of things that could be happening in that scenario.
Well, I'm gonna make you laugh, okay? And we'll keep moving this train along. He privately messaged me. I have another project next door that the interior is completely gutted, and I need 250,000. Can we bundle the loans? So he's looking for a Doug Flutie Hail Mary. He's looking for a Doug Flutie Hail Mary and hoping I'm the savior. I mean, these guys and gals, they just don't put a lot of thought into what a real loan is about.
I know. It's like you can't ask for that stupid.
I'm on the podcast and I'm looking at this on the string of conversation. So what I did was I emailed him back and said, "Are you over leveraged?" It's an easy question. You have an interior that needs $250,000 next door here. You're off by $50,000 to $75,000 here. Where's your contractor? What's your reserve base? What's your credit? Why would I fix your mess? Like, give me a really good reason to why I should fix your mess and take over your mess. And there is no imaginary second lien position loans out there. Show me a HUD. Show me a HUD, and I'll eat crow. Okay? Show me the HUD of that imaginary loan, because it doesn't exist. Because no first position lender is going to allow you to put a second position loan on their project legally. Okay? It's not going to happen. Right?
Yeah, but that's why those lines of credit are so important to you as an investor, right? There's always going to be a project you go, oh, holy crap, this sucks, and we did not, budget this one well. Like I've done enough of them. Like you just like,
I just don't get it. It's like every week it's the same. It's a different person, same story. So, and it's all about the general construction piece. So thank you, Amy. And quick shout out for Prop Tech Council. What's going on there?
Oh yeah, so the U.S. Prop Tech Council has several events that we're going to be at. So we all don't know what the Prop Tech Council is. We are the trade association for the real estate technology industry in the United States. NAR has their Innovation Summit, IOI, in Chicago at the end of August, so we will be there. And then also Blueprint is a real estate technology conference that happens in Vegas in September. We will also be there. And then New York City Real Estate Tech Week. We will be hosting an event at that, but this is the middle of November.
When's that?
And so we will also be there too.
When's that in November?
It's November 11th through the 15th. Okay. And it's one of the largest real estate technology. CRETech, Michael Beckman hosts CRETech Metaprop, who is a large prop tech VC, has some events, and then we will, as the U.S. Prop Tech Council, will be hosting a 2-day startup, which is a hackathon. So if y'all have an idea that you want to see if you can turn it into a prototype or a design for a technology, you come to Real Estate Tech Week, and we will have dev teams there and college students working on hacking ideas. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I might be coming back from Apple, but it might be something I could put on my radar if I know what day. And when you get closer, you got to let me know so I can make sure.
Yeah.
But I might be.
It's 11th through the 13th, but the whole week is 11th through the 15th of November for New York City Real Estate Tech Week. So,
Good stuff. Thank you, Amy. So let's dive into some top construction markets that are hot still for renovation and rehab. Let's go with top cities, and we'll talk about bottom cities. We'll do the just top five and the bottom of top five of the bottom cities. Number one is San Jose, California. These are large cities. Oakland, California, a lot of rehab going on there because it's a depleted market right now. San Diego, Virginia Beach, Virginia, Long Beach, California, Boston, Mass is on there. Omaha, Nebraska, Louisville, Kentucky, and Columbus, Ohio rounds up the top 10. Bottom cities, New Orleans, Louisiana, Austin, Texas, Philadelphia, PA, San Antonio, Texas, New York, New York, Fort Worth, Texas, Jacksonville, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri, Cleveland, Ohio, mid-sized cities with hot markets: Providence, Rhode Island, Fremont, California, Garden Grove, California, Aurora, Illinois, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Bottom cities that are mid-sized cities that are kind of not as hot: Cape Coral, Florida; Scottsdale, Arizona; Amarillo, Texas; Surprise, Arizona; Port St. Louis, Florida; and Montgomery, Alabama round out. Now these are the bottom cities are ones that are kind of slowing down. Okay, they're just slowing down a little bit. They're not just staying up with the pace of the market where they once were. But there's still some opportunities out there. I agree on Philadelphia wholeheartedly. It's really turning into a full-blown rental market. Everybody wants to rehab a house, but they're all rehabbing to hold. Nobody's rehabbing to sell. Nobody that I know personally. And I talked to a lot of people in Philadelphia. So I feel Philadelphia is a good litmus test to let you know what a lot of these markets are turning into, these urban settings. They're turning into rental markets. You need to build your general construction team and keep them busy going from one project to the next. And you got to get a format in place. Very important. And having those relationships could do very well if you have a good crew behind you and really know how to button down numbers and put contingencies in place to make a difference in your finish and get that to a rental space and then do the refinance. Justin, good morning and welcome. Brief overview: who you are, what you do, and little thoughts to how to build a high performance contracting team.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Absolutely, it's a great topic. I am a real estate investor. Done several flips. I've done some new construction, getting into some more new construction, and also stretching myself with some other development projects finally. And I'm also a licensed broker. Been licensed since 2011. I guess it's the typical profile I give of myself, so you understand. But Joe, this is personally, I'm coming off of a set of experiences that I'm still dealing with that had to do with my poor selection of general contractors. While I do have a lot of those skills myself, about 4 years ago, I wasn't. I was just looking to get somebody to do the work for me, even though I did have some general contracting experience and so on and so forth. As of now, I have a lot more, and I'll be handling a lot of my things for my own, flips and new, single off, one-off new builds and duplex builds or whatever. I can handle those myself. But as far as how I'm going about selecting subcontractors, because I believe, I'm using the same set of metrics or a similar set of metrics that someone need to look for if they're looking for in general. But the first thing I'll say, Amy had a lot of good points. The first thing that I'll say from somebody that doesn't have any insight or any experience and no exactly what to look for outside of the typical things. I say make sure you try to find somebody who cares about their reputation. So if you're kind of new, you're just an investor, and first things first, you're gonna want a contractor or professional that looks like they're carrying a good reputation. They have a good reputation amongst people, and they have a presence. Um, whether that's on the media or whether it doesn't necessarily have to be a media. They don't necessarily have to have commercials, but they knew that you do need to be able to vet them and prove that they are the type of contractor that's going to come in and do what they say they're going to do. You need to kind of ask a few questions. What pace do they work at? Right? What is their capacity? Depending on what you have going on. If your city is going through. It just depends on what it's going through. In 2016 when we had our great flood, um, it was hard, obviously, to find a good general contractor, and then you have all these people saying they're contractors and so on and so forth. As those people filtered out, you could tell which ones were staying and which ones couldn't hang on and why they could. And almost always it had a lot to do with how they're running their business, yes, but it also had a lot to do with the quality of work they were putting out. And I want to say this: contractors are almost all of them have to be confident. Okay, so don't let their confidence outweigh your knowledge and understanding as to what you need done. Right? There are instances where they need to use their expertise to tell you, we need to make a shift here, we need to make a change there. And look, you would definitely want to hire somebody where you trust their judgment, right? And that's where vetting these people and all of those things comes into play. So if you're looking to find a GC to flip a house, find somebody who's flipped the house and possibly that GC, and always go through 5 to 10 of them as far as getting quote and estimates. And they all need to meet your pre-screening metrics. So I mean, I can go on all day, but I just wanted to get some tidbits for somebody who may not be immersed in that field already, and be looking for somebody to get the work done for them.
So, Justin, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is it the delegation of the investor to the contractor that delegates to the subs? That chain of command has to be in place, correct? Is that one thing you learned, that you have to delegate the GC, or if you're hands off from the GC, is that where the problems start?
I mean, I find out. Well, you should. Well, let's be clear. You should be able to be hands off with a GC. You should be able to just go by and collect reports from the GC daily. Well, not necessarily daily, but every other day, for sure, weekly, right? Progress reports or bi-weekly progress reports. So, it's the GC's responsibility to manage his thugs, right? I'm taking that on because I'm going. I'll have my license again in a couple of months. So that's where I was referencing. But I want to be clear: it's the GC's responsibility to manage his subs. It's your responsibility as the investor to vet that his company represents quality work and a quality team. He's supposed to keep his subs and anybody that comes to do work for him and under his company up to a certain standard. It's especially if it's under his license. Now, there are plumbers may have to pull, depending on the rules and regulations in your area. Plumbers have to pull their own permits. Electricians may have to pull their own permits, right? And the GC may have the sub do that individually. That's fine, but just remember, a good general contractor is not going to hire a bullcrap sub, right? Because that would make his general practice subpar. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Thank you, Justin. For a couple things I got from Justin is, one, you got to have templates with checklists to make sure things are being addressed. There's so many different templates out there to be a better delegator, right? And then you have to become a great delegator. You got to accept that delegation helps your construction team grow. Learn how to delegate, prioritize and determine which tasks you can delegate. Make your construction team feel more confident, especially the lead GC. Choose the right team members for the task. Maybe hire or retain a project manager to buffer in between, because maybe you can't get there every week. Maybe you want to pay somebody to be responsible party and part of the process maybe to build their own resume and understanding, and following up without micromanaging. Linda, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, how to build a high-performance contracting team.
Good morning, Joseph. Good morning, investors on Clubhouse. I hope you're doing well. My name is Linda Pliagas, and I'm the owner of Realty411.com. We're a news and information website, and we help investors in their journey towards real estate wealth. I've also been an agent for over 17 years, and I'm an accredited investor residing in California. Now, as far as building a contracting team goes, from my experience, the most important piece of advice that I can possibly give people out there, investors, whether they have a property manager or not, is to always get multiple bids on all repairs. As I mentioned, whether you have someone else managing your property or you're doing your own repairs and rehab, it's always important to get multiple quotes on all repairs. I'd like to give an example of something that happened to me recently. We had, a lot of rain the past few months here in California, and we had several leaks in one property that we owned in Los Angeles, and it needed to be fixed. Well, my property manager gave me a bid of $10,000. It was the first bid that he acquired. Oh, I almost fell off my chair because I didn't think that the work was that intense and extensive. So I immediately asked him if he could please get us a second bid. Well, about a week and a half later, he emailed me and said, "Oh, I found another person that can help you with your repairs. And he's only going to be charging about $1,000." My goodness, that's a $9,000 savings just because I demanded that they get another bid, folks. Imagine if I would have gone with the first one. It's always important to get multiple bids. It was up to me to get them. Let me see. It's always important to get multiple bids, even if it's up to you to get your own second bid. Don't rely on property managers to do all the work. They're really busy. Some of them can manage over 500, 600 units. So unfortunately, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So sometimes you're going to have to do a lot of your own work and get multiple bids yourself just to make sure that you're going to come in within a budget. Don't be afraid to demand for multiple bids, folks. Remember, the property managers work for you. It's your money and your savings. Don't be intimidated by, just going with whatever they say. Yes, they are professionals, but at the same time, you know what's best for your money, for your budget, and for your property. So that's my advice as far as dealing with property managers and getting multiple bids. I always like to also hire people that are going to be working on my property that have been referred by other people. So I always ask other landlords that I know for referrals. I like to go to my local real estate group or apartment association and try and get a list of vendors from them and get a list of companies that they trust. Lastly, please never release a lot of money to start the work on a project. Be sure to dole out the money in steps, not all at once. Regrettably, regrettably, I've heard too many stories about people running off with money. It's happened to a few people that I know, as a matter of fact. So always double check. Never give them too much money up front. And lastly, be sure that your workers are insured and bonded before you hire them. I think that's also very important for legal liability. Those are the tips that I have. I hope they have helped you. Thank you so much, Joseph, for this great room. Back to you.
Thank you, Linda. And quick update on Realty 411, any upcoming events we need to keep an eye out for.
Yes, thank you so much. We are having an event next Saturday, August the 3rd in Los Angeles. And we're also having a larger LA Grand Real Estate Expo October 26th, which is also a Saturday. That's coordinated with 2 other real estate groups in the Southern California area. So we always bring in about 800 investors for the one in October. We invite everyone to come out, whether you're out of state or in state. Try and fly in for the day on October 26th. You'll be mingling and networking with investors from around the country, and you'll walk away with hundreds of business cards. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Linda. Linda brought up a really good point. Having a bullpen of GCs and subs in your in play. I actually host and sponsor at Home Depot Pro Desk and Lowe's Pro Desk different functions for the GCs and investors to come and meet and greet. I actually put money out in sponsoring those events, and I think it brings a lot of people together in a collaborative environment, and it helps understand the investor understand the GC and meet the GCs that are active. If somebody's at 6 o'clock in the morning at Home Depot loading 2x4s, 2x6s, and sheetrock, they're going to a job, right? They're busy. Those are the people you want to take some time with and pick their brain and hopefully bring them into your team. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. People, transactional, experienced players in the GC work. That's extremely important. Jeffrey, good morning. Long time no see. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and I owe you a call and your thoughts to how to build a high-performance contracting team. Jeffrey Morales, are you there? Going once. Oh, Jeffrey left us. There he is. Is he back, Jeffrey?
Sorry, hey, sorry, I've been off this app for a little bit. This is a good topic. Yeah, I called you yesterday. This is a good topic, though. I think a lot of people, I always tell people, man, if you want to have a good relationship with your GC and a good relationship like doing the flip, make sure there's a well-defined scope of work that you're doing, because he's going to do, or the GC is going to do whatever you tell him to do, and he's not going to do anything extra if you don't tell him to do that. And likewise, if he doesn't understand what your scope of work is, he's not going to be able to save you money on ideas and things that might help you. I see a lot of people, they go in, well, I just want to make the bathroom look nice, so let's do this, let's do that. How about well-defined scope of work? So when he goes to Home Depot, he doesn't have to just look at, well, I want this and I want that. Just give him a well-defined scope of work. I think that's probably the biggest thing that people fail at when they first start getting with like general contractors and stuff, because they don't really know. They probably watched HGTV and they probably looked at a bunch of other things, and it was like, well, the guy kind of did it on his own, and the guy managed it minimally, and you can do that with a good GC and a good well-defined scope of work. But if you don't have a well-defined scope of work, it's going to be very hard for your GC to understand what you're trying to do and where you're trying to make money, and where you're trying to save money. I'll give you a good example. I was finishing up a flip in Philadelphia, and I had these windows that I wanted, and he was like, I need new windows, so I'm going to go get new windows. And he's like, well, what kind of windows are you looking for? And I was like, well, something nice and white. I'm not a window expert. Something that's going to make the place look better. And he's like, okay, cool. He's like, so you want these windows? They do look nice. They're for the neighborhood. You're not building an $800,000 house. This is just a regular, $300,000 row home. So you don't have to worry about it as much. Let me go to my guy, and we'll get some cheaper windows than what you were going to get. Again, I think it just goes back to good communication and a good statement of work. when you're actually building GCs, because if you don't have that, it's going to be hard, and you're going to start spinning your wheels because he's not going to understand what you want, and then you're just going to get frustrated with the whole process, and it's going to take 6 to 8 months longer than what you think it's going to be, because there's no really understanding there. So I think I like what Justin said about subs. If you're gonna have to manage your GC subs yourself, then you might as well just fire your GC and just do the subs, manage the subs on your own, because there's no really way. There's not really a good idea if you have a GC that's her subs are all messing up and you have to start managing subs, and what's the point of the GC? So I think those are my thoughts. But I always tell people, get a well-defined scope of work. Communication is very important, especially if you're doing this project for a long time. And I think maybe on the third level of things, have a feel for your GC that they kind of understand what quality means to you and what their quality means to them. Kind of have that conversation, I think, because you want to have somebody that's do it for cheap, and then quality of work is lackadaisical, and you're like, well, I want a higher quality, and the guy's like, well, this is the quality I got. So those kind of conversations I would have, but definitely start off with a good scope of work and have good communications and good conversations with your GC. I am not a big fan of hands-off type of flips. I will go to the site maybe once or twice a week and look at everything, make sure we're on track, and if I need to help out, find out where the bottlenecks are, just like any good operation. That's kind of what I do when I do it. But if you're thinking that you're just going to sit at home, and just spending money on GCs and it's going to come out great, it's probably not going to be a good idea. So great communication, good scope of work, and please follow up and manage as best you can when you're doing some flips. That's all I got, Joe.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Yeah, biggest thing I got on what Jeffrey was just talking about is strong problem solving capabilities. Amy, did you want to add something real quick before we go to Travis?
Yeah, on the scope of work, one of the things, if you're a newer investor, one of the things you can do, so typically GCs are busy, and when they give you bids on, so they come out, they look at the project, and they go, okay, these are the things I wanted. As an investor, you're walking them through the house, and you're going, okay, I want to do these things. If you don't have a predefined scope of work, most people don't, right? When I would go meet an investor, they were like, okay, we want to do this, and they're walking through and they're talking, right? So record that conversation on your phone, and then take that recording, put it into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, make a detailed scope of work for this project. And it will spit out a detailed scope of work for you of things that you probably didn't even think about. And then you can fill in the gaps with finishes, like these kind of counters, length of counters, things like that. But it will guide you on how to create, because the scope of work is where you live and breathe on your project. And if it's ambiguous, you're not going to get what you want. So it's a great point about the scope, but you can use technology to help you. So that was my other point there.
Amy, are you seeing smaller investors bringing in buffers like a project manager that understands scope of work and kind of stay on top of the GC and the workmanship and the completion with the draws? Are you seeing that a little more often now, or is that still not there yet?
I think that's a very New York thing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, not here in Texas. But on larger projects, like if you were walking into $1 million rehab, I bet you they would do that because there's enough space there. But a lot of the rehabs in Texas are 100 grand or less.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to really do that, right? I mean, and so, but to your point, if they did it just like one time, you don't have to do it a whole lot. The first couple of flips, if you actually paid somebody who and that's not the GC, it has to be somebody else, and just maybe you make a little bit less on the house, but you're going to learn so much on processes and when you have to get materials and what you have to do. This just learning the process would be well worth your education. Just consider it education and throw it in your educational bucket and hire somebody that way. It would probably be good, but large part, 99% of the time they don't. Yeah,
that's great stuff. What to include in a scope of work, a project overview, expected deliverables, a schedule and timeline, define terminology, adding visualizations, it can help, and setting realistic expectations. and making sure all signatures are collected on this entire process. Travis, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to how to build a high-performance contracting team.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I'm Travis. I have a real estate brokerage here in the Houston area. We specialize in investing in residential and commercial properties, and we also have property management, and we do a bunch of remodels, rehabs, repairs, make-readies as part of our property management. So I can tell you how I find contractors and what I look for, and it's kind of easy to weed out the ones that you don't want to work with. So one of the good places here in Houston, since we have such a big city, is there's a really good Facebook group, actually two, for contractors for the city of Houston, where you can go on there and, post what it is you're looking for, whatever it is. I need someone to build fences. Like right now, after this hurricane, we have fences down like crazy. And you'll get all kinds of responses, and I can give you tips on how to not turn that into a marketing scheme for the people that are responding. But anyway, we'll skip that. So one of the quick ways to weed out contract you don't want to work with is, when you're spending over $600 on a vendor, you have to have a W-9 so you could 1099 them at the end of the year. So, you ask them a simple question. Okay, send me your bid, send me your written estimate along with your W-9. Man, you'll hear crickets all day long until someone that's a real company knows what you're talking about. Number one, they know what a W-9 is, and they send it to you. So that'll really weed out a lot of people that don't have a real company, or they're not, claiming or documenting their revenue to the IRS. And the other thing is, if it's a general contractor or some other contractor, okay, send me your liability insurance. Another thing I look for when I'm looking for vendors is I look for vendors that are specialized. I want somebody that knows whatever the trade is that they do, and they've been doing it for a while. I don't want someone that says, "Oh, I'm a handyman. I can do this, and this," which is fine. Like, we use guys like that, but I've known them for 20 years. But we use them for certain projects, but not a big remodel or something. So, focus on finding people that are specialized in what they do. If they're a painter, they're a painter. If they're a carpenter, they're a carpenter. That's it. That's all they do. And they'll tell you, like, look, I hang drywall. I don't paint. Okay, then you're the drywall guy. There are hangers. There's the installers. There's the finishers. There's, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of guys that just do one special trade. And those guys are fast. And, you might think, oh man, I'm paying these guys, it seems like you're paying them a lot of money, but boy, they get done quick. They can hang drywall on a 1,500 square foot house in like 2 days. It's like, wow, how did you guys do that? I don't know what else people had talked about because I missed some of this, but definitely having that scope of work. And if you're not being the GC yourself, then staying on top of your GC, because sometimes these guys, they don't show up. Like, there's no one at the job site. Like, hey, it's Tuesday. Why is there nobody here? Where are we? Why is nothing going on? And then you can see if that's somebody that you want to continue working with, because they can really drag out your project timeline if there's no one there working on the site, or they don't have it planned out. And yes, project managers are a great idea. Like, I'll use a project manager from time to time when I have a larger project, and she goes out there, and man, she's a bulldog. She stays on top of these guys. So I think that's the basis of what I have to say. As far as like the property manager that Linda, talked about, man, I'd fire that guy. A property manager that doesn't have a vendor to fix a roof and knows what it should cost is not somebody you want to work with. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you have to fire people if they're not working. And I think, Amy made a good point. And there's not enough room in a project that's like $100,000 job. But guess what? It might be your last $100,000 job, your first and your last $100,000 job. If you don't pay somebody $2,500 to be your eyes on the game the whole time. I mean, listen, if you're going to hold this property long term and it's not a flip, look on the cash on cash return. Paying somebody to be the eyes on the ground for you, boots on the ground, kicking somebody in the ass every Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, spot checking the project and updating you because you're the one that's responsible for that loan, the disbursements of that money, that draw schedule, everything. Like, is it worth it? Of course it is. Hire an intern. Hire somebody out of college that wants to get something on their resume to be a project manager. I mean, they'll run through fire to get something on their resume nowadays. Understanding accountability and effective project management completes deals. I'm still having a discussion with somebody about how he's off by $50,000 on a $1.5 million project. That's not my problem. Then go back to the bank that you got the money from. Don't come to me for the $50,000. You didn't come to me for the first position loan. Why would I help you for the $50,000? Oh, I'll pay you. How can you pay me on $50,000? Like, how desperate are you then? You're in a bad spot. And you have these other projects that are incomplete too. I would not lend to you. You're not a good client. I'm firing you before you start. I'm not the bailout lender. I'm a lender. Okay? Oh, aren't you hard money? No, not for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And you usually get to see that in bad renovation deals and rehab projects. You need to surround yourself with smart people. You need to spend money. You got to spend money on buffers, or you're going to have failed projects. You're going to have a gutted out house up for sale because you got to bail out and you're upside down in your project. And now you walk away with a sour taste in your mouth and you're going to tell everybody that everything sucks in real estate. It's not, no, you suck. You're the problem. The project wasn't the problem. You didn't put enough people in place in your team. Good morning, Andrea. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, how to build a high-performance contracting team.
Good morning. So I'm Andrea Lane. I'm with the Coast to Coast Real Estate Group, and we buy and hold, we rehab and sell, and we wholesale. And right now we're in the process of rehabbing, I think, 21 units. Our goal for the year is to do 30 a month. So we're reaching that goal very quickly. So a couple of things that I heard. I keep hearing about the statement of work, and that's really important. We do a statement of work. So in fact, when I talk to contractors to see if they qualify to talk to my contracting partner, the first question I ask is, I need a W-9 and I need your insurance. We work on a statement of work and a payment schedule that is mutually agreeable. You don't get paid until the work is complete. And we only cut a check once a week. So if you're on Friday afternoon and you haven't finished anything, you're not getting a check that week. We're very clear on how we work with them. We have, I think we're up to 22 contracting teams that work with us. So we're constantly working with different people in different areas of the city. So it's really important that they understand how we work. We have 3 new interns who are currently learning the process so that they can actually be employees or go out and work for themselves. So I think interns are really important. Another thing I heard is going to Home Depot. I would suggest, if you want the best contractors, go to Home Depot at night when they're ready to close. Those people are getting ready, so tomorrow morning they're on your job. They're not going to pick up material. That's just a trick I heard from one of my real estate friends, and I've actually gotten 2 contractors that way. So, what else? The checklist is always important on understanding what needs to be done when. And it's most important in my mind to make sure you don't give money until the job is done. So when they say they're going to complete something, someone needs to make sure they go there and check all the stuff is complete. Something's not missing. Even if it's small, just tell them to fix it before you give them the check. And the other thing we require is we require lien releases when we give them money. We give them money. We say, we paid you for this work done. And you sign this release so that you can't come back to us. So those are a couple of things that we do that I think are really helpful, but most of them I already heard on the line. The only other thing is when you have a bigger project, we try and do smaller rehabs, but we've certainly got into full guts. When we do that, we create a project schedule so that everyone knows when things are expected, so we know when materials need to be ordered. And we do hire our own subs. We don't have contractors hiring subs for us.
Thank you, Andrea. Hey, any good events coming up that you're attending that we need to be aware of and on our radar?
Actually, I have to tell you, I am so worked into getting all of these rehabs running that I'm not doing any events for the next 3 or 4 months.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to let some of these big players know that you're not going to be present. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I am so impressed with Andrea. When I saw her right in the middle, we were just getting out of COVID, and she was in Vegas with me at Apple, and I made a major shift in my impression on Andrea Lane almost immediately. Am I correct, Andrea, when I saw you there?
Yeah.
It was immediate. I was like, man, this woman is a badass. So I want to thank Andrea for sticking around here and coming in every once in a while. She runs some great events and online. Andrea, do you still have that online mentoring thing?
So I actually moved it down to once a month,
Okay.
which was amazing for me. I'm really excited about that. So we have once a month. We have an event on Thursday night, the second Thursday of the month, and we do a market update once a month, depending upon when the government comes out with their findings.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's coming up in the next couple months, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andrea, and thank you for your insight. Yeah, and scope of work is everything. Like what Andrea's saying, Amy, Travis, Jeffrey, Justin, Linda, milestones, reports, deliverables, end products, what expected to be provided by a performing party. I mean, you gotta have a solid scope of work. It's very important. Ellis, good morning. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, how to build a high-performance contracting team.
Thanks, Joseph. Nice to see some familiar faces in the room. My name is Ellis San Jose. I'm an investor, full-time investor in Southern California. I've been doing this for about 3 decades now. I like what everybody said here in the room. They've really, given a lot of the same answers I would, but I like to break it down. With literally taking the topic of the room, how are you going to build a high performance contracting team? I almost take it like how you're going to build a sports team, right? So you want to have, I'm assuming that you've vetted them, you've got clear communication, and then you have consistency. What I mean consistency is that if you're doing a lot of these projects, you want to be using very consistent applications and materials, etc., because they're going to get really, really good and become high performance if there's a lot of consistency in what they're using. So I get teased a lot because a lot of my projects look the same, and it's because I know that they're really good at using these type of materials. And if you're always changing the game with different types of materials and treatments, there might be a little bit of variability in quality because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a machine like high performance, right? So I'm going to say we're going to use the same material on this job as that job. They kind of know, we almost have the same brain. They already know what I'm going to say. Another thing that I like to use is what I call CPR for all my projects, and people laugh at that, but it's basically I want to have checklists, protocols, and reports, and that's what I use to kind of track everything, right? So you have a checklist that you develop over time of consistent reporting of what's going on, and then you have the protocols, and so everybody knows how everything's going to be done, reporting, and who do you contact for this, who do you contact for that. And then the end is a report. So you're getting a midweek report and an end of week report. I think it's important to have at least 2 check-ins, if not more, and when you're first starting out, but at least 2, because you don't want to wait till the end of the week before you start to see a fiasco start, right? You want to try to catch it in the middle before something turns into an expensive problem. So yeah, those are some of the things that just hit top of mind of what I want to do. I mean, I'm assuming that you've already vetted them. I do a very deep dive into background checks with whoever I'm going to work with, because I want to make sure that they are a person of integrity. If they have a bunch of judgments and lawsuits and a bunch of different entity names where they've started a business and then changed it because they've run into trouble, I want to eliminate them from my team right away. I want to make sure I have integrity. I'm looking at long-term relationships, and it really helps to have that, because once you start having kind of the same brain when you're doing a project, it works so much, and it's actually enjoyable. And that's why I never really like doing like the fast flips where you're just trying to find somebody who's available. That can be a recipe for disaster, right? You're like, who's available? I got to get this done, and then you start to slip on your due diligence. So I think very long term, most of my stuff is buy and hold for a very long time. I am very reluctant flipper. I don't like to do flips because it's just much more compressed time periods and pressure. But yeah, thanks so much for the really good stuff that everyone shared.
Thanks, Ellis. Appreciate you coming in by. My overview, we're going to circle the wagons here. Use plain language. Set realistic expectations. Break down that scope of work with your general contractor. Create timelines and schedules. Get the whole team involved. If you need visuals, do so. Be detailed but concise. Get signatures. And I really suggest getting that buffer project manager and paying that little extra money to have eyes on the ground floor when you're not available, and setting timelines and somebody updating you week to week till that project is completed. Because you draw that money out, that contract, you don't know what they're doing if you don't see completed processes in place. This is very, very important. This is a great discussion today. I think it's, we don't take enough emphasis into the GC piece. We kind of like, hey, I'll let somebody else work on that. Let the GC do what they do and I do what I do. No, it's got to be part of your fabric. So we'll get some final brief thoughts from Amy on how to build a high performance contracting team.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would just like Ellis everybody added really good points. Travis, everyone. I would say, summarizing that who you're dealing with. The only other thing I would add is if you're in a market that's not your backyard, say you found a really cool property in some other state or whatever, and you've got somebody who's boots on the ground, but you still want to go through the vetting process, or even if you're looking for a new sub, one of the tricks that I did when I was managing projects in 16 states is if I needed to find a painter and it was in a market I didn't know, or my painter backed out, I would call the supply houses. So I would call Sherwin-Williams and go, hey, who's your best painter? Give me 3 painters that you like, right? They know who the good ones are. They know who the people are that pay their bills. They know the people who know what they're doing, right? If you needed to find an electrician, I would call a Gray Bar. If you needed to find a plumber, I'd call Ferguson, right? So there's ways and tricks to find subs if you're trying to GC it yourself. So that would be the only thing else I would add. But it's been a great discussion, and it's super important. That you stay on top of your projects too, like Andrea does. Like, you just got to stay on top of it. Because if you rely on somebody else, you're the investor at the end of the day. You're the one who signed on the loan. I don't care if you have a GC. You better be going and visiting that project, because if you don't and you just take a back seat, that's when you get into trouble. So that'd be the other half of the bowl.
There we go, the half a nickel. I love it. Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you as always. Oh, thank you to the moderator team today. And I'm going to use a really important word here that Ellis brought up: integrity. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. Hey, we don't have to all sit down and have a drink together every day, but you know what? There was a very high level of integrity in this room in giving an honest opinion and thought to general construction. and being a better rehabber. Whether you want to be the flipper or you want to be the rehabber to hold, GC work is the backbone to completion and process of building your portfolio. So we'll be back we'll hear every Saturday and Sunday morning, 8 a.m. on Saturdays, Sunday mornings, 9:30 a.m. I want to thank our sponsors, Linda Pelagas with Realty 411, Mr. Yardell Perkins with Perkatech, Mr. Eric Moss with MB Capital, Lenmark Capital, myself, Senior Loan Analyst, Joseph Scarice, co-founder and co-host of the Creative Birth Strategies House, as well as podcasts. We're here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. We're offering CE accreditation courses on asset-based lending fundamentals nationwide. We provide you worksheets to better pencil your deals down, including a general construction budget with a draw schedule. So if you don't have it, request it. I'll get it out to you. And we also offer great events throughout the country with Linda at Realty 411. She's got some great events coming up in the fall. Keep an eye out for that. And my quote this morning, he who lives without discipline dies without honor. Icelandic proverb. This is Joe Scarice. I want to thank you again for a great Sunday morning, and I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. Have a great day, guys.